I still remember the exact words she used. "I think it's best if you pack your things." No fight. No warning. Just a blank face and a sentence rehearsed like a voicemail script. We'd been together for 6 years. I'd watched her lose her job, held her hair back through illness, and spent every weekend repairing that little 2-bedroom bungalow she said was her dream home. I pulled up rotten flooring, replaced moldy drywall, installed new cabinets by hand. I laid down my pride and picked up overtime shifts to cover her missed mortgage payments, the ones she said she'd make up later. Only the house wasn't in both our names. It wasn't in my name at all. We put it under hers because her credit was slightly better. That was the story. And I didn't push, because love doesn't need paperwork. At least, that's what I told myself back then. But that morning, with my duffel bag half-zipped on the edge of a bed I built a headboard for, I realized something. She had planned this. The timing was perfect. The renovations were done. Her new job was stable. The house had just been reappraised, and I had just made the final payment on the backyard deck she said she wanted for future summer barbecues. She didn't cry. Didn't waver. And as I stood there, hands numb and throat burning, the only thing she offered was a parting line. "You'll land on your feet. You always do." That's when I realized, she never thought I'd fight back. She thought I was the quiet type, and she was right. But quiet doesn't mean powerless. It means I don't waste my energy on noise. I wait for stillness. Then I move. And when I do, I don't miss. Her name was Adrienne. She had a laugh that cracked like sunlight through overcast skies, sharp, sudden, bright. I met her at a mutual friend's 4th of July barbecue, both of us standing alone at the grill while everyone else argued over pool music. I made a joke about burnt hot dogs, she countered with a story about catching her hair on fire during a fireworks show, and the conversation never stopped after that. Adrienne was magnetic. She had a way of making every space feel like it owed her a little more attention, not because she demanded it, but because she moved with the confidence of someone who'd seen chaos and survived it. She worked as a junior event planner at the time, driving an old Honda with no air conditioning, but you'd never know it from the way she carried herself. Back then, I was working as a licensed electrician. Good pay, solid hours. My job didn't impress her, not in the way other people seemed to care about titles or promotions. What mattered to Adrienne was that I showed up when I said I would, that I held eye contact when she talked, that I listened without interrupting. That I made her feel safe. The first year was effortless. She moved into my apartment after 9 months, and within the first week, I'd given her a key and half the closet. She painted the walls sage green and brought in houseplants I didn't know how to take care of. I liked how full the place felt. How alive. When she lost her job during a company merger in our second year, I picked up weekend gigs, residential rewiring, garage remodels, security installs. It wasn't even a question. We were building something. Not just a life, but a home. Then came the bungalow. A modest 2-bed, 1-bath on the outskirts of town. Nothing fancy. But Adrienne saw it on a Sunday drive and fell in love instantly. The ivy crawling up the front porch. The cracked garden path. "It has soul," she said, resting her head against my shoulder as we stared through the rusted fence. "It just needs someone who sees it." We didn't have enough saved up for a full down payment. But she had slightly better credit. That's what the broker said, that her score would qualify us for a better interest rate. We agreed, the house would go in her name. I'd handle the labor and day-to-day maintenance. She'd take the mortgage. We'd call it even. And we did. For a while. I gutted that place. Weekends turned into renovation marathons. Ross, July 31st, 2025, 11:48 a.m. I'd be up before sunrise pulling out moldy baseboards and sanding floors, while Adrienne brought me lemonade and played music from a Bluetooth speaker on the windowsill. We turned the second bedroom into her office, hand-built shelves, custom lighting. I even installed soundproof insulation so she could take video calls without disruption. When she struggled to keep up with her bills during a rough patch, I covered the mortgage. 3 months in a row. Just until my client pays me, she said. And I believed her, because I wanted to. She started going out more after that. Book clubs. Networking events. Late-night work dinners that came with the smell of cologne I didn't wear and inside jokes I wasn't part of. I asked once if anything was wrong, and she said no, just that I was becoming too intense about money. I didn't fight it. I didn't argue. Instead, I worked harder. Refinished the floors. Rebuilt the kitchen island. Added a deck in the backyard, with inlaid lighting and a new fire pit. I told myself it was just a phase. That we were both stressed. That love just looked different sometimes. But things didn't get better. They just got quieter. The last month we lived together, Adrian stopped saying, "Thank you." For the groceries. The repairs. The bills. The dinner I left in the fridge when she worked late. Gratitude faded, and routine filled the space it left behind. Looking back now, I see the shift. I see the way she distanced herself while still letting me do the work. The way she let me believe we were a team, even as she made solo decisions. But back then, I didn't see betrayal. I saw investment. I saw loyalty. I saw the woman I loved struggling, and me, the man who refused to walk away when things got hard. I thought that was noble. Turns out, it was just naive. The day she ended it wasn't stormy or dramatic. There was no fight, no slammed doors, no broken glass. It was just a Tuesday. I came home from work covered in sawdust and insulation. We were rewiring a 1950s duplex, and my hands were raw from fiberglass. I walked through the front door I'd repainted 2 months earlier, deep navy, her favorite color, and the air felt still. The kind of still that clings to your skin. Not silence, but absence. Adrian was sitting on the edge of the couch, her knees crossed, both hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. She didn't look up when I came in. "I think it's best if you pack your things," she said. Calm. Measured. Like she was reading off a script she'd memorized. I laughed, at first. Thought she was joking. But her eyes didn't move. They just stared forward, unfocused, like she'd already rehearsed my reaction and didn't need to see it in real time. "I don't understand," I said. And I didn't. Not yet. She stood up. Walked to the hallway, where 2 suitcases leaned against the wall, both mine. Already packed. Clothes folded with care, like a favor. Toiletries. My extra phone charger. Even my toolbox, zipped up like an afterthought. "I've been thinking about this for a while," she said, her voice flat. "We want different things. I need space. Time. Clarity. Clarity." I repeated. "Yes," she said, sharper now. "I've outgrown this. I've outgrown us." She didn't say anything about the house. Not the deck I'd finished last week. Not the 3 missed mortgage payments I'd quietly covered. Not the 6 years of Sunday mornings and late-night freezer pizzas and the time I drove 3 hours in a snowstorm to bring her a backup charger because her phone died at a conference. She didn't mention anything real. Instead, she handed me a check. $400. For what? I asked, stunned. "For your things," she said. "The shelves you built. The desk. I don't want you to feel cheated." Cheated? I stared at the check like it was a joke. Like I'd blink and she'd smile and admit it was all just a twisted kind of test. But she didn't. That night, I sat in my truck outside the house I'd helped rebuild, the home we swore was ours, and I watched the lights turn off one by one. Ross, July 31st, 2025, 11:48 a.m. My hands were still sore from laying deck boards. My throat burned from insulation dust. And all I could think was, she waited until it was finished. She knew she was leaving. She just wanted the work done first. What stung wasn't the loss of love. It was the precision of her exit. The way she'd engineered it to cost me the most while leaving her untouched. The next few days were a blur of logistics. I moved into a friend's spare room. Called utilities. Cancelled subscriptions. Tried to find my footing in a world where I'd gone from co-builder to ghost. But the real break came a week later, when I stopped by to pick up a few tools I'd forgotten in the basement. A man answered the door. He was wearing one of my flannel shirts. Not exactly, but the same brand, same style. His hair was still damp from the shower. He didn't know who I was. Adrian came to the door a few seconds later, barefoot and smiling, and said, "Oh, sorry, I thought I told you. I'm seeing someone now." Told me? Told me when? The math lined up. Too well. The late-night meetings. The sudden need for space. The way she waited until every inch of the house was polished before cutting me loose. It wasn't a breakup. It was a handoff. I wasn't her partner. I was her contractor. And she didn't just erase me. She replaced me. Effortlessly. I didn't yell. Didn't plead. I took my tools and left. But something in me broke that day, not with fury, not with heartbreak. With silence. A deep, hollow quiet that settled in my chest like concrete. She thought it was over. She thought I was gone. The first night in my friend's spare room was colder than it should have been. Summer was fading, but the evening still held heat, not that it mattered. That little back room, with its single window and threadbare blinds, may as well have been a cell. I sat on the edge of the borrowed bed with the box of my things beside me, 3 flannels, a few chargers, and the check Adrian gave me, still folded and untouched. $400. A price tag on years. I didn't cry. I thought I might. I wanted to. But there was nothing. No tears. Just stillness. A quiet, steady throb behind my ribs where everything used to live. Everywhere I went, reminders followed. The ache in my knees from kneeling on floorboards. The faint sawdust smell on my coat. The half-finished project folder on my laptop, labeled Deck Plans, Final. It was like grieving someone who wasn't dead, just rewritten. And I realized, I didn't miss her. I missed the version of her I'd believed in. That woman, the one who laughed in grocery store aisles, who kissed me behind paint-splattered drop cloths, who cried in the middle of the night and let me hold her until she fell asleep, she wasn't real. Or maybe she was, for a moment. But she was gone now. And the woman who replaced her didn't even look back. I avoided our old street. I blocked her on social media. I left the house in the mornings before dawn, came home after dark. Routine kept me upright. Coffee, job site, invoices, shower, bed. Repeat. But inside, I was hollow. Not angry. Not vengeful. Just, emptied. I stopped answering calls from friends who just wanted to check in. I told my parents I was busy. I nodded through conversations with coworkers. I kept my head down, my hands busy, my heart locked behind drywall and insulation and the silence of good craftsmanship. There's a grief that comes not from loss, but from waste. The years I poured into something I thought we were building together. The holidays spent with her family instead of mine. The overtime hours I picked up to fund someone else's foundation. I wasn't mourning her. I was mourning me. The version of me that believed love was earned through effort. That believed being useful meant being irreplaceable. That man was gone now. And in his place, someone quieter. Someone who no longer mistook silence for peace. Someone who understood that not every nail you drive stays where you put it, but you drive it anyway, because that's what builders do. You build. Ross, July 31st, 2025, 11:48 a.m. Even when it hurts. It started with a single envelope. Plain white. No return address. Just my full name, typed in all caps, waiting on the kitchen table when I got home from work one Thursday evening. Inside, a property tax statement. Her house. Still listed under her name. Still carrying all the expenses that came with it. And printed at the bottom, under assessments, a line item for recent improvements. The new deck. It hit me all at once. Not like a crash, more like a rising tide. A slow, undeniable flood of clarity. I'd been treated like a contractor. She filed the renovations as if she'd hired someone. She was building equity off my unpaid labor. But she hadn't paid me. Not officially. Not legally. No invoices. No release of lien. She thought because I left without a word, I'd stay quiet forever. That night, I didn't rage. I didn't drink, or vent, or text anyone. I just sat down at my desk, a makeshift folding table in the corner of that back room, and opened my laptop. I pulled every receipt from my email. Home Depot runs. Equipment rentals. Specialty tools I bought specifically for that house. I found old text threads where we discussed the deck design, where she'd approved measurements and materials. I had before and after photos. Progress shots. Even timestamps from cloud backups. All tied to my name. My hands. My effort. It wasn't revenge I was planning. It was reclamation. I called a friend, not close, but trustworthy. A soft-spoken lawyer who specialized in small claims and property disputes. I told him the story. Just the facts. No anger. When I finished, there was a pause. Then he said something I'll never forget. She didn't just take your time. She tried to turn your silence into profit. We filed a claim. Nothing flashy. Just a reimbursement petition for labor and materials, every dollar documented. Not out of spite. Not for justice. For balance. I didn't want the house. I didn't want her back. I just wanted what I'd already paid for. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. I didn't tell anyone else. No dramatic posts. No calls to mutual friends. No warnings. Instead, I cleaned my tools. I started working with a local contractor who did remodels for single mothers and elderly homeowners. Nothing major, just a few projects. But something about that work grounded me. I was building again, but this time for people who needed it. Who appreciated it. And slowly, piece by piece, I started putting myself back together. My friend's legal team moved quietly. She was served the paperwork 2 weeks later. I didn't need to be there to imagine her face. The panic. The confusion. Because what Adrian had underestimated was simple. She thought my silence meant surrender. But real builders, the ones who know structure, balance, tension, we understand timing. You don't fix a foundation during a storm. You wait. You study the cracks. And when the sun comes back, you repair it the right way. I wasn't chasing retribution. I was correcting a blueprint. One line at a time. The notice arrived at her door in a plain manila envelope, claim for reimbursement of uncompensated labor and materials rendered on privately owned residential property. No dramatics. No angry letters. Just the quiet weight of documentation. And every piece of it was true. She tried to play confused, of course. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she laughed it off at first. He's just upset. He'll drop it. But when the legal phrasing became real and the summons required a response, her tone changed. What she didn't know was that I never intended to go big. I didn't want headlines. I didn't want her embarrassed or ruined. I wanted her to feel it. That slow realization, the way cold water creeps in after you fall through ice. First, the contractor lien. It froze her ability to refinance the house. Then the reimbursement petition, tied directly to logged receipts, materials, and labor hours. We weren't inflating anything. Ross, July 31, 2025, 11:48 a.m. In fact, my lawyer intentionally kept the claim conservative, below the market rate, based on verifiable time logs. She didn't argue much in court. Her new boyfriend, the one in the flannel shirt, showed up once, eyes darting like he'd rather be anywhere else. But there was no denying the facts. Text messages, dated receipts, side-by-side progress photos with metadata. She couldn't rewrite this. The court ruled in my favor. She was ordered to pay the full amount, $14,672, within 60 days or risk a lien conversion and credit hit. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. She had the house. But now, she also had a bill. A reminder. A stain on the story she tried to polish. After the ruling, I did one more thing. I sent her a copy of the final invoice, formatted professionally, with a handwritten note clipped to the back. For services rendered in good faith. I trusted you. I built for you. I showed up. You chose to forget. This paper won't. That was it. No signature. No anger. Just the facts, something she'd always struggled to acknowledge. Then I walked away. But the world didn't stop there. She tried to sell the house 6 months later. The market had dipped. Her new boyfriend was gone, rumor had it he moved back in with his parents after they broke up. The appraisal came back lower than she expected. The improvements helped the value, sure. But the lien on her record, even after she paid it off, complicated things. Buyers asked questions. Realtors hesitated. What she had once weaponized, my silence, my effort, my loyalty, had become a story with documents and signatures and timelines she couldn't spin. Meanwhile, I never said a word. Never posted about it. Never told the group chat. I just kept working. Quietly. Focused. I took a few of the legal settlement dollars and bought a small fixer-upper outside town. Nothing flashy. Just a place that needed hands that cared. I laid the first board of the new deck by myself on a Saturday morning, sun low, coffee in hand. And I smiled. Because revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes, it's the quiet creak of a porch step that you built with your own hands. The sound of your name, not someone else's, on the deed. The knowledge that everything she tried to erase had been preserved. Not loudly, but deeply. That's the thing about builders. We don't break. We rebuild. Adrian didn't lose the house immediately. That would have been too clean, too quick. No, what she lost happened gradually, like rust forming under paint. First came the financial pinch. She paid the court-ordered reimbursement, but it left her dry. I knew her margins. Knew the job she had wasn't what it used to be. The event planning agency had downsized. Most of her contracts were gig-based now. No benefits. No guaranteed hours. She had the title, yes. But the house had become a weight. Property taxes went up that year. Her escrow wasn't prepared. I saw the public records, the late fees stacking. The interest quietly compounding. The same improvements she bragged about during the appraisal, the deck, the soundproofing, the upgraded wiring, had pushed the home's value up, but they'd also triggered a reassessment. That was the irony, the work I did raised her bills. Her silence cost her nothing when I was building. But now it echoed in every bill she opened. I heard, through the same mutual friend, that she tried to refinance again. Got denied. That contractor lien, even after repayment, left a mark on her credit report that lenders didn't love. One bank flagged her as high risk due to recent dispute. She called me once. Just once. A number I didn't recognize lit up my phone during a lunch break. I answered, half on autopilot. Her voice came through soft, almost breathless. Hey. It's Adrian. I didn't speak. I just waited. I didn't think it would all go like this, she said. I didn't realize. But I didn't let her finish. I'm not the one to explain your life to you, I said quietly. Then I hung up. That was it. No rage. No lecture. Just distance. Ross, July 31st, 2025, 11:48 a.m. I never answered again. She tried selling the house about a year after the court ruling. It sat on the market for months. The listing changed 4 times. First it was quaint, then charming, then price reduced, then simply motivated seller. Buyers kept backing out. The inspection always came back clean, thanks to my work, but the disclosures and title history told another story. A reimbursement lien. A dispute with a former partner. Legal drama. It made people pause. And no one wants to live in a house with a story that feels unfinished. Meanwhile, I finished rebuilding mine. Not just the house, myself. The work had become therapy. Every board I placed, every nail I drove, was a form of translation. Of what I couldn't say back then. Of what I didn't know I had the right to feel. And people noticed. Clients referred me to their friends. Then strangers started calling. I wasn't advertising, just doing honest work. But word travels when your silence has structure. One evening, I got an email from a couple moving into town. They'd seen my deck work at a neighbor's and wanted a quote. I clicked the address in their message and felt my breath still. It was her address. The house. She was finally selling. I never responded. Let the new owners make it theirs. Let them build fresh memories. I wasn't going to step foot there again. Not because I was bitter, but because I was finished. Adrian had wanted a house that told a story. And she got it. Only, it wasn't the story she thought she was writing. She tried to erase me. Instead, she left proof. And while she kept trying to salvage her version, I was already living in mine. Not just healed. Not just whole. But home. It didn't come with a slammed door or raised voices. It came on a Tuesday morning, almost 2 years to the day since she asked me to pack my things. I was on my porch sanding a handrail, the smell of cedar and coffee mingling in the summer air, when I saw her car pull into the gravel lot across from my property. She stepped out slowly, sunglasses in hand, hair pulled back like she used to wear it when we were still good. Still possible. Her walk was cautious, not the confident stride I remembered. She stopped at the edge of my driveway, eyes scanning the front of my house. My house. I let her stand there. She didn't wave. Just waited. After a while, I walked over. Not rushed. Not cold. Just steady. I wiped my hands on a rag and leaned lightly on the fence. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just a breath. Then. "Your house is beautiful," she said, voice low. I didn't know you were capable of this much on your own. I didn't smile. Didn't thank her. "It's easier," I said, "when no one's pulling nails out behind you." She looked down. To her credit, she didn't deny it. "I came because I wanted to apologize," she said. "I've thought about it for a long time. The way I handled things. What I did. I was I wasn't fair to you. There was a pause. Not the kind that asks for forgiveness, the kind that waits for permission to keep speaking. I was selfish, she continued. I saw how hard you worked, Anne. I let myself believe it would always be there. That you would always be there. And when I realized I didn't love you the same way, I didn't know how to leave without making it transactional. I nodded. So you made me a transaction. She didn't answer. Behind us, the wind moved through the trees like a sigh. I could hear the faint clink of wind chimes from my porch, a gift from a recent client. The world kept turning, even while she stood still. You don't owe me anything, I said after a moment. Not words. Not guilt. You made your choices. And I made mine. But I cost you years, she said, eyes glassing over. No, I said, calm but firm. You cost yourself something. You had someone who showed up. Who believed in us. And you traded that for comfort. For convenience. For whatever that guy gave you, I don't even need to know. She winced, but said nothing. I built you a home, I continued. Ross, July 31st, 2025, 11:48 a.m. And you turned it into a stepping stone. Her voice cracked then, just a little. I never stopped thinking about what it could have been. I have, I replied. That was the truth. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. But I was done. I had spent enough nights rebuilding a structure she'd walked out of. Enough mornings remembering where the cracks had formed. She looked at the porch one more time. At the new railing. The hanging lights. The well-laid pavers I'd leveled by hand. This place has you in it, she whispered. No, I said, gently. That place did. This one has me. She nodded, quietly. Then turned and walked back to her car. No lingering. No last words. And as the engine faded into the distance, I stood alone in my yard, but not abandoned. Present. Rooted. Her apology wasn't closure. It wasn't justice. It was just confirmation that I was never crazy, never imagining it. That she knew what she took, and what she lost. And I didn't need her to lose more. I just needed her to see. Peace didn't arrive with a trumpet. It came in pieces, small, quiet, steady. It came in the sound of a kettle boiling in the morning, in the scrape of wood against wood as I slid my chair out onto the porch I built with my own two hands. It came in the creak of a clean floorboard, in the cool shadow of the tree I planted out back, the one that took root faster than I ever expected. It came in the silence, not the kind Adrian left behind, but the kind I chose. The kind I earned. I didn't rush to fill the space she vacated. I didn't date out of spite, or try to prove anything. I let myself be alone, fully and deliberately, until it stopped feeling like absence and started feeling like alignment. I started journaling. Not to document pain, but to understand it. I wrote about the value of effort. About what it means to build for someone else, and how easy it is to lose yourself in blueprints that were never meant to include you. I started volunteering on weekends, helping seniors repair accessibility ramps and homeowners patch up old electrical issues. Quiet, unglamorous work. The kind of work that doesn't trend on social media, but changes lives just the same. And slowly, I felt the weight lift. It didn't disappear all at once, grief never does. But it got lighter. Easier to carry. One day, I looked around my home and realized, every corner of this space held only good memories. Nothing borrowed. Nothing stolen. Nothing lingering from a time when love was currency and silence was punishment. Just wood. Light. Air. And me. I had stopped building for someone else. And started living in what I built. That was the difference. That was the healing. I still build things. Not because I need to prove I can. Not because I'm trying to forget what I gave away. But because I finally understand what it means to build for yourself. You see, love that costs your voice isn't love, it's labor. And silence only feels like safety when you've been taught that noise is dangerous. But now, I speak through structure. Through the grain of polished wood, the weight of level beams, the gentle creak of a floorboard that only gives when it knows you belong there. She kept the house. But I kept everything else. And every morning, when I open my door and step barefoot onto a porch that never asked for gratitude, only integrity, I remember. She left me a house. But I gave myself a home. And that is a foundation no one can take.